Coming up on Midco Sports tonight, we'll recap North Dakota football's spring game that took place Friday up in Grand Forks and was a decent little preview for the fall. Then our Summit League panel joins me in studio to talk hoops, specifically the big-name transfers of the league. And finally, it's athlete tweets featuring a creative new way to work out. All of that plus much more. Midco Sports Tonight starts right now. Happy Monday and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Kelly Stewart and this is Midco Sports Tonight. Well, despite the snowstorm hitting Sioux Falls and the surrounding area extremely hard, not every sporting event was canceled over the weekend, so we will start with an indoor game up in Grand Forks. Yes, the annual UND football spring game took place on Friday night inside the High Performance Center on the campus of UND, serving as both the 15th and final practice of the spring season for the Fighting Hawks, as well as a chance for the public to check out the team's progress since last fall. The scrimmage featured a mix of special teams and one-on-one drills, goal line work, and a series of full contact drives designed to simulate game situations. Regardless of the drill, though, the common theme for the night was the dominant play of the defense. 10 different UND defenders racked up 12 total sacks, 18 tackles for loss, and an interception during the roughly 60 plays featured in the live portion of the scrimmage. Part of that success can be attributed to the number of established stars on offense not participating in live action as a precaution, but the D certainly passed the eye test in the lone showcase for the team this spring. But it wasn't all bad news for the offense, as all three quarterbacks played well in limited action Friday. As you'd expect in a spring scrimmage like this, the least experienced redshirt freshman Brock Boltman saw the most time under center, going 8 for 13 for 70 yards while consistently making plays with his feet outside the pocket. Sacramento State transfer Nate Ketteringham went 6 for 8 for 78 yards and a pick, while junior Andrew Zimmerman finished 2 for 8 in mostly goal line action. Junior James Johannesson had 20 yards rushing to go along with 2 catches for a team-high 44 yards, while redshirt freshman Mikey Greibel led all receivers with 4 grabs for 16 yards. Our Midco SN crew was live for the duration of the scrimmage, and they caught up with head coach Bubba Schweigert right after the final whistle.
Spring ball now wrapping up, 15 practices in the book. When you look back on this spring, where do you think this team improved the most?
Well, I thought, we were just much more consistent offensively, throwing the ball and catching the ball. Tonight, no drops, which was pleasing for us. And we got to protect the passer better. That's one thing we got to improve. But I really thought we made a jump in some young guys knowing the offense and catching the ball, and the quarterback putting it in the right spot.
Coach, when you guys came into spring, what were the biggest things you wanted to accomplish? What were the things you looked at and said, this is what we really want to get better at?
Well, we wanted to develop some depth at all positions. In the quarterback position, we obviously have some depth there, and it's been a good competition. In O-line, we have some work to do yet. Nate didn't play tonight. We had one guy sitting out, which affected our depth a bit. Then defensively, we got to be better in the secondary, and no explosive plays. That was a little disappointing there when we gave up a run play there late in the scrimmage. Didn't set an edge, but those are the things that we really wanted to focus on. Depth at all positions, and then taking care of the football is always important, but on defense, we just can't give up explosive plays. You just can't do that if you want to be great on defense.
I think a lot of people watching at home were curious to see how the quarterbacks
for more on the
would do
spring game at UND, what it all means for the Fighting Hawks in the fall, let's bring in our own Alex Heinert. And Alex, as we just saw, you were at the HPC Friday night. What was your biggest takeaway from the game?
Well, at the risk of reading too much into a collection of 60 plays in April, I think the upgrades on defense really stood out. That group we saw Friday looks bigger, faster, and more dynamic than the one on the field for much of last season. And while I think we expected that to be the case in the fall once everyone was back from injury, it was a pleasant surprise to see an immediate impact from the redshirts and the mid-season additions. Noah Larson, Zeke Ott, running back turned linebacker Austin Gordon, Tyron Verde, Jake Geyer. That group looked ready to go. On the other side of the ball, it was a pleasant surprise to see the UND screen game coming along. UND's offense has been reluctant to utilize screens in recent years, but given the kind of playmakers this team has out of the backfield, it was refreshing to see that get a little more run in the offense. On the occasions that it was used, Brady Oliveira, Teddy Sherva both broke screens for big plays. That's a good sign of what could be to come this fall.
Well, speaking of that screen game, the big story all spring has been the open competition at quarterback, who's going to be throwing the screens. Did we learn anything new about the 3 players vying for that starting job under center, Alex?
You know, if we're being honest, not really, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the top receiving threats for this team set out the majority of live drills, as you said, as a precaution. Redshirt freshmen Mikey Greibel and Cam McKitty and Graham DeVore, they all made a couple of plays in the passing game, but it's just different when you're working with young receivers as opposed to guys that are more experienced in the route tree and that know how to get open. Second, only Brock Boltman attempted double-digit passes, and some of those came in non-contact situations. That's just not enough of a sample size to glean much from. And lastly, when UND's quarterbacks did throw, it was mostly on the run as the defense was in the backfield in a hurry the majority of the time. I think we knew going in that all three can move and can make plays with their feet, all three have strong arms, and that all three are going to need some more time and more reps before they're comfortable in this offense. I don't think we saw anything to the contrary, whether positive or negative on Friday from Zimmerman, Ketteringham, and Boltman. And that's okay. These guys have time to get this thing figured out.
136 days exactly till that first game of the fall. Thank you so much, Alex.
No, you bet, Kelly.
When we come back, we are talking Summit League men's basketball transfers. And speaking of, we'll bring you the best Matt Mooney moments from USD. You're watching Midco Sports Tonight.
Midco Sports Tonight, presented by Avera Orthopedics.